In a recent video, we quoted the angry response of Hieronymus, the Archbishop of Athens and all Greece, concerning Egypt's recent court decision to appropriate the St. Catherine Monastery in Sinai, a UNESCO-protected site. At one point, Hieronymus said, quote, "The Egyptian government has effectively chosen to dismantle every notion of justice and with a single stroke attempt to erase the very existence of the monastery, abolishing its religious, spiritual, and cultural function." Erase. That is the key word here, which this video is dedicated to. As it happens, past and, as we are witnessing, present, Islam has always tried to erase the existence and even memory of those preceding it, those whose lands it appropriated. As of this very moment, for example, Muslim Azerbaijan is actively erasing the Christian heritage of Artsakh and other Armenian lands the Muslim nation recently appropriated through war and conquest, specifically by removing churches and crosses and Christian cemeteries, as well as spreading false propaganda, claiming that these lands, which have been Christian for nearly 2,000 years, Armenia being the first nation to officially adopt Christianity, were actually always Turkic and even prototypical Muslim. I've written extensively about this phenomena, links to articles in the description. Now here's what's really interesting. The appropriation and subsequent erasure of non-Muslim sites preceding Islam has been so thorough as to rewrite history, which of course is the whole point. By altering how the past is understood, Islam legitimizes itself and more in the present. From here we come to the popular and widespread idea that the Muslim world was somehow always Muslim. Consider, for example, the following words, spoken by a young Palestinian Christian and documented in a 2023 report. Quote, "In view of the economic hardships and political instability, the occupation and rising fundamentalism, where we Christians face extreme difficulties and feel unwelcome, why not pack our bags and return to Europe?" Return to Europe? Is this Christian young man unaware that he is already living in the very birthplace of Christianity, and that history's earliest Christians originated from the Middle East, not Europe? Is he unaware that his own Christian forefathers were there centuries before Muslims? How could such well-known facts escape him, of all people? By way of an answer, here is how Joseph Hasboun, who is also quoted in this same report, link in the description, replied to the idea that Christianity is foreign to the Holy Land. Quote, "This idea is due to misinformation in the Palestinian curriculum, which cites that Palestinian history begins with the Arab conquest of Palestine without any indication of the first 7 centuries of Christianity in the Holy Land. The religious instruction in Palestinian Christian schools and in local parishes focuses on faith building rather than Christian history in Palestine. This has led to a lack of awareness among many Palestinian Christians of the history of Christianity and the first Christian communities of the Holy Land in the 1st century AD. Nor is such fake history limited to Palestinian curriculum. Christian minorities all throughout the Middle East have long maintained that the history taught in public classrooms suppresses the region's Christian heritage while magnifying, including by whitewashing, Islam's. Thus, during a 2016 conference in Amman, Jordan, hosted by the Jerusalem Center for Political Studies, Dr. Hena al-Kaldani said that, quote, "There is a complete cancellation of Arab Christian history in the pre-Islamic era. There are many historical mistakes and unjustifiable historical leaps in our Jordanian curriculum. 10th grade textbooks omit any mention of any Christian or church history in the region. Wherever Christianity is mentioned, omissions and mischaracterizations proliferate, including the portrayal of Christianity as a Western, that is, foreign source of colonization," continued al-Kaldani. Such revisionism is not only designed to make indigenous Christians feel foreign on their own land, it is designed to make Muslims view the Christians in their midst with suspicion, and worse. In the words of Kamal Mougheet, a retired teacher in Egypt, quote, "It sounds absurd, but Muslims more or less know nothing about Christians, even though they make up a large part of the population and are in fact the original Egyptians. Egypt was Christian for 6 or 7 centuries before the Muslim invasion around 640. The sad thing is that for many years, the history books skipped from Cleopatra, meaning 30 BC, to the Muslim conquest of Egypt, meaning 640 AD. The Christian era was completely gone, disappeared, an enormous black hole." A 2023 report, links to all of this in the description, agrees with this assessment. It says, quote, "The education program in Egyptian public schools is devoid of any lesson, text, or mention of other faiths or religions, with a total omission of Egyptian Christian or Jewish historical figures or major non-Muslim religious holidays. The same goes for Coptic history, despite the fact that the Coptic Church played a prominent role. All this completely agrees with what I recall my parents, Christians from Egypt, telling me of their classroom experiences in the then much more tolerant 1940s and 50s when they were children. There was no mention of Hellenism, which goes back to 300 BC, 330 BC, Christianity, or the Coptic Church, 1,000 years of Egypt's pre-Islamic history. History essentially began with the indigenous pharaohs before jumping to the 7th century when Muslims from Arabia opened Egypt. Yes, whenever Muslims conquer non-Muslim territory, Islamic hagiography euphemistically refers to the event as an opening, a fath or futuh in plural, never a conquest. Anyway, according to Sharara Yusuf Zara, a politician formerly involved in the Iraqi Ministry of Education, quote, "It's the same situation in Iraq. There's almost nothing about us, Christians, in our history books, and what there is totally wrong. There's nothing about us being here before Islam. The only Christians mentioned are from the West. Many Iraqis believe we moved here from the West, that we are guests in this country. It's worth noting that the similar ignorance and historical revisionism predominates in the West. Although Christians are in fact the most indigenous inhabitants of what is today called the Arab world, I am often asked by educated people why Christians choose to go and live in the Middle East among Muslims, if the latter treat them so badly. At any rate, such revisionism has not only successfully indoctrinated Muslims to suspect and hate Christianity and Christians among them, which is and are seen as a non-organic parasitic remnant left by Western colonialists, but it has even gotten some indigenous Christians, such as the aforementioned Palestinian youth who thinks it's time to return to Europe, to believe the same. This phenomenon is also connected to some bitter ironies. The ancestors of those Muslims who persecute Mideast Christians today were themselves often persecuted Christians who converted to Islam to end their own suffering. Thus, Muslim descendants of persecuted Christians are persecuting their Christian cousins. Such are the fruits of the fake history that convinces modern-day Muslims that their Christian counterparts are unwelcome leftovers from the colonial era. In the end, of course, the Muslim world's pseudo-historical approach to Christianity should be familiar. After all, and as we've seen multiple times, doesn't the West engage in the same exact chicanery? In both instances, Christianity is demonized and its history distorted by those two unlikely bedfellows, the so-called left in the West, Islam in the Middle East. But while one can understand why Islam promotes such a fake history, that is, to benefit and elevate itself, the West, or certain elements thereof, promotes the same fake history, but in this case only to weaken, demoralize, and subvert Western civilization.